For more on this, let's welcome in retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent John Nance and National Security Analyst Ryan Mauro. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Ryan, I'll begin with you. I just want to get your initial reaction to this attack and how it could have been prevented, or how it's been handled since.
Well, I don't have much room to really criticize because the details aren't in yet, and so I just want to give them a little bit of time. But in general, the same flaws that I've been talking about ever since I first started coming on Newsmax many years ago, a lot of those flaws still remain in our policy, which is that these individuals are referred to as lone wolves, and that gives this impression that there's almost nothing you can do about it, that they're just that inevitable crazy person that exists in society. But if you actually look at the radicalization process, there are what I call jihad factories, meaning there's radical mosques, there's radical schools, there's radical registered nonprofits that I monitor at Capital Research Center that are promoting this way of thinking, even if they're not promoting ISIS in particular. And this is the end result. And there hasn't been a strategy even since 9/11, ever since 9/11, to acknowledge that there's an infrastructure behind this entire Islamist ideology, and that needs to be confronted and dismantled. It's always been focused on just one group at a time.
I just wanted to add to that I saw a lot of friends of mine have been saying that when they say he's acted as a lone wolf, they say, well, no, he hasn't, because he's had, thousands of college kids cheering him on all year, and people taking to the streets, glorifying terror. So you just wanted to add that.
Yeah, playing to the crowd, unfortunately.
Exactly.
John, now, President Joe Biden confirmed that the FBI believes Jabbar acted alone in his mission there. Take a listen.
Today, the FBI briefed me that as of now, we have no information that anyone else is involved in the attack. They've established that the attacker was the same person who planted the explosives in those ice coolers in 2 nearby locations in the French Quarter just a few hours before he rammed into the crowd with his vehicle.
John, with all this back and forth with the FBI, especially the spokeswoman who initially said it wasn't a terrorist attack, can the public really trust the FBI?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I agree with the perspective with regard to, I don't think the FBI should use the terminology, lone wolf. I don't think anybody with the FBI has used that particular phrase. But to my colleague's point, no one in this position, no ISIS-inspired terrorist really truly acts alone. And I know the Bureau is looking at a strict legal definition. And what the FBI is saying is that it doesn't appear that there were any co-conspirators with regard to this terrorist action that occurred the other day. So that's kind of where the FBI is coming from. The initial press brief was a disaster, in my opinion. It's unfortunate that the ASAC out of New Orleans misspoke the way she did, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt in saying that she misspoke. Trust is at a premium, especially when it comes to the FBI these days. And so I think Bureau personnel need to be extremely clear and precise when they're communicating with the public. Now, if you'll notice, they brought in a deputy assistant director to handle the press conference the next day. So that kind of tells you where headquarters is at with regard to this issue. And headquarters really, I think, about an hour after the initial press conference came out and said that that the FBI is investigating this as a terrorist incident. So these kinds of miscommunications, this lack of coordination between headquarters and the field office doesn't inspire confidence. Yeah. And I think the Bureau is rightly criticized for that type of response.
Yeah, I was in New Orleans after this and for the last couple of days, and was actually at the scene when the FBI were raiding the house that he had stayed in, the Airbnb, and they were there for over 24 hours just going in and out, working really hard. And at one stage, I overheard one of the ladies look at her phone and go, "Oh, I can't wait for Kash Patel." So It goes to show that
Whoa.
probably they also don't like the way that the FBI is heading at this moment. But I digress. I was also there on the street. I saw the people there and the way that they were feeling, the makeshift memorial that was set up, and people are still lost for answers. They still just want to know how and why. Ryan, what kind of information could they possibly be waiting on?
Do you mean the public or who waiting on?
Well, the public, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the public wants to know as many details as possible because especially with those videos going around where the attacker is talking about real estate, I think that sometimes gets more attention than something that's really inflammatory, because when they come off inflammatory and they come off a little bit crazy, people can then almost dismiss it because they can't relate to it. And so again, it goes to the idea that that's just one of the crazy people you get in a large population. But then when you see them acting rationally, like someone that could be your friend or family member, that's when the public starts waking up, and that's where there's more fascination because it's important for the American people to realize that even ISIS radicals are human beings too. And so the people that you think are rational, or even you yourself, under the right conditions, could potentially be seduced by a radical ideology like this. And that's got to be understood. And people have to be humble enough to realize that every human being is susceptible to radical ideologies. You just won't realize it when it happens.
Yeah.
That's scary thought.
It's terrible. Yeah, it really is. But this is the world that we're living in, unfortunately. Correct. John Nance, Ryan Mauro, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and coming up, fears are growing that the power struggle in Syria following the collapse of the Assad regime